Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, super intelligent small yellow teddy bears, however you might identify, we really couldn't give a fuck. Let's deal with some kind correspondence today in this video, just because I can't be asked going through the actual video concerned again. But let's deal with this email here from one of my fine supporters that says, I really enjoyed your video to Mike Fave. I've been wondering when you'd get around to addressing him. So for those who don't know, Mike Fave is an imbecile, an arrogant imbecile, who is talking publicly vastly and hugely outside of his sphere of expertise, which I have no problem with if a person says the right thing. Mike doesn't. Mike is a registered nurse and should probably go and do bedpans or whatever it is that registered nurses do. Maybe it's the enrolled nurses that do the bedpans. Who knows? Anywho, Mike Fave should go and do some nursing is what I'm saying, and really stop trying to talk about the intricacies of metabolic function, because he really doesn't understand them at all. Anyway, I think his entire argument hinges on his claim that when burning fat, the mitochondria create an excess of reactive oxygen species, which reduces their efficiency. Okay, so the first part of the statement is correct. There is some indication that mitochondria that are oxidizing short chain, medium chain, or long chain fatty acids tend to produce more reactive oxygen species. But the step further, the leap of faith beyond that this reduces the efficiency of the mitochondria, is not supported. That's an opinion. And as I've repeatedly said about many people and their opinions, the thing about opinions is they're just like assholes, in that most people have got one, and it's full of shit. So, they make some other claims, they meaning the Bioenergetics folks, of which Mike Fave is one. They make some other claims about cortisol and stress hormones, which need to be addressed also. Well, I did. But the main thing is their claim that burning fat somehow causes mitochondrial inefficiency. Yes, you said that. I looked up whether there are any experiments that show a decrease in basal metabolic rate when switching to a low-carb, high-fat diet. There aren't. It doesn't seem to affect the BMR at all, statistically or meaningfully, clinically, whatever, sure. Whether burning carbs or burning fat, the BMR of any one person seems to remain about the same. Yeah. He also implied that with the mouse study that humans who are burning mostly fat are in the same metabolic state of PDH complex knockout mice, which is false and ridiculous. They're not. But wouldn't there be human evidence for this? Well, if it was so, there would, and there isn't, so it's not. Also, aren't there other effects of having absolutely zero levels of PDH complex? Yes, you'd die. How can he be sure that all of the effects are caused by fat burning? He can't. In fact, he can't even be sure about anything he has to say, because it's all based in conjecture and opinion. That conjecture and opinion coming originally from the late Ray Peat. Well, we suspect that. We don't really know for sure, because if anyone's listened to Ray Peat speak, you'll see what I mean. He's basically incomprehensible for the last 20-something years of his life before he died. Not a single word is comprehensible. It's just garbled noise. I'm sorry, but that's how it was. Okay. Right. Also, humans on a low-carb diet are not burning 100% fat. That's correct, they're not. They're still burning significant amounts of glucose. Yes, as you explained. Yes, I did. Wouldn't a PDH complex knockout mouse be completely unable to burn glucose? Yes, and as such would die. That seems to be a very different thing than burning mostly fat. Yes, it is. Also, do you have definitive evidence that this mitochondrial inefficiency doesn't happen? Well, yes, because the metabolic rates remain about the same, as you yourself said. How's that? It seems odd from an evolutionary standpoint that it would, given that if we are omnivores, which we're not, we would have encountered periods where our diets were entirely or mostly prey animals. Yes, meaning fat and protein and no carbs to speak of. There is still some carb in meat. It doesn't seem likely that we'd have evolved to have that create a backlog at the mitochondrial level. Correct. Of course, it doesn't make any sense at all. just like everything the bioenergetics imbeciles have to say on just about every topic. Regarding the cortisol thing, you don't seem to be suffering from cortisol excess. No, I'm not. Is there any experimental evidence that low carbers are in a state of chronically elevated cortisol? No. Ben Beckman said in an interview with Thomas DeLauer that these increases in cortisol levels seen in low carbers are very modest increases. Yes, that's one of the few things that Ben Beckman has said recently that was correct. That's for another day, though. And that these increases in cortisol levels are on a totally different scale than any increases that would be of a concern. Yes, fine. Another thing that irks me about these bioenergetic folks is that they are being cagey about what their diet is. Yes, and that it is a low-fat diet, basically, period. Yes, they don't want to say it because people don't like low-fat diets, but that's what it is, yes. They encourage you to eat simple sugars and starches, and only after you gain weight do they bother to tell you, well, you have to remove most of the high-fat foods from your diet so you don't gain weight. So basically, it's a low-fat diet. Yes. In a podcast where Ray Peat was on with Brad Marshall, was he? Brad, you didn't tell me that. Did you understand a word he said? Ray Peat said that when he was working for the Forestry Service, walking around in the woods, scribbling in a notebook or something, that he was eating 9,000 calories per day and he didn't gain any weight. Okay, let me correct you right there. Nobody ever consumes or eats any calories ever. That is a physical impossibility. It is out with the known laws of physics as we understand them at this time. The rest mass of the electromagnetic field is zero, ergo, photons cannot be brought to rest in any inertial frame of reference. That's why they have the same apparent speed in every inertial frame of reference, irrespective of what that frame of reference is. Ergo, calories, which are heat energy, which are made manifest as photons, cannot be consumed, period. How do you like that, lame Norton? I bet you don't. All right. Owing to his very high metabolic rate from eating simple sugars and drinking fruit juice. I found this to be absolutely ridiculous. Well, it probably is, but also it's not out with the realms of possibility. Because, as I've said, you cannot consume a single calorie ever, let alone 9,000 of them. That's not how physics works. That's not how the universe works. It's a false paradigm. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. It's rubbish. And people need to get their fucking heads around that. All right. Ray Peat knew more than me about biochemistry. Okay, well, I know more about biochemistry than Ray Peat. So what? So I wasn't in a position to see his errors. But this just rang my bullshit bell very loudly. Oh, good. Common sense. 9,000 calories every day and he didn't gain any weights. No calories at all, in fact. What he did do is consume an amount of effective food mass made up in various different ways on various different days. That's the only thing that could possibly have affected his weight. That and his water balance, pretty much. The water balance being probably the most important of all, actually. I don't think Ray Peat could have fit 9,000 calories in his stomach in a day. Again, the exact spatial extent of a photon, any given photon, is zero. It has no spatial extent. It has no mass whatsoever. Ergo, any number of them could fit into any space at all. That's how Bose concentrates are possible. However, that forgets that they cannot be consumed, contained, brought to rest in any inertial frame of reference, because they can't still. All right? Maybe you could address some of these points in an upcoming video. There you go. I just did. Thank you very, very much for the email. Appreciate it. I won't name you because you didn't give me permission to in the email, but there are some thoughts from my fine supporters. There is my response. Hope it was educational and somewhat amusing, perhaps. Who knows? Maybe not if you're lame Norton. You probably didn't find that amusing at all. Well, if you didn't like it lame, come and front me face to face and we'll discuss it, you and I. and we'll see which one of us is correct. It's me, by the way. All right. See you next time when someone will be right, wrong, or have something to say about something. Ciao for now.